All war is a crime, some would argue. But in war, the most important goal is bringing it to an end. We are now ready to destroy every productive facility the Japanese possess in any city. Using the atomic bomb during wartime was something I believe America was fully willing to do. Let there be no doubt. We will completely destroy Japan's ability to wage war. If they refuse to accept our terms now, they should expect a storm of destruction from the air, unlike anything ever witnessed on Earth. That aerial assault will be followed by sea and land forces with unmatched strength and numbers, backed by fighting skills they already know well. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 T. Minus 4 hours, 30 minutes. At 2:45 a.m., the Enola Gay, a B-29 superfortress, waits on the runway at Tinian Island. 11 crew members are on board. Their mission: deliver the first atomic bomb ever used in history. The aircraft carries Little Boy, a uranium bomb weighing nearly 9,700 pounds. Inside lies a level of destructive power the world has never seen before.
All war is a crime, arguably. But the best thing you can do in a war is to end it.
Final clearance is granted. Colonel Paul Tibbets pushes the throttles forward. The engines thunder through the night as the aircraft lifts off, flying north across the Pacific. Its destination is locked in. Hiroshima remains hundreds of miles away, completely unaware of the devastation approaching. The journey will take 4 hours and 30 minutes. For the moment, everything is quiet. But this story, this historic flight, did not begin above the Pacific skies. It started years before, when the world was pulled into a conflict unlike anything ever experienced. The year is 1941. The world is already engulfed in war. Nations are trapped in a desperate fight for survival, their destinies bound together in the flames of conflict. During the early morning of December 7, 1941, a single moment changes history forever. Japan, an expanding imperial power, launches a surprise assault on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor.
Bomb in the theatre of war was something that I think America was perfectly prepared to do.
The United States, shocked by the devastating attack, unites with renewed determination. It becomes clear this is no longer only a battle for territory, but a fight for survival. It will claim millions of lives and require the development of weapons with unimaginable destructive power. And so, as the Enola Gay departs from Tinian Island on August 6, 1945, bound for Hiroshima, it carries the weight of 4 years of war, countless lives lost, and desperate decisions made along the way. A weapon now rests in the hands of those who will shape the destiny of nations. December 8, 1941, 12:30 p.m., Washington, D.C. President Franklin D. Roosevelt stands before Congress. His voice is calm, yet it carries the immense weight of a nation's sorrow and determination. In that moment, the United States enters the global war. The storm has arrived, and the world will never be the same. The conflict spreads rapidly. The Pacific becomes a brutal battlefield. When Japan and the United States fought across the Pacific, they were battling for control of strategic islands. Massive battles took place on islands like Iwo Jima and Peleliu, where the fighting was incredibly brutal and exhausting. Japanese forces were deeply entrenched and often fought to the very last soldier. The human cost was staggering. Not Hitler saw Japan's attack and was pleased. He hadn't known they were going to strike Pearl Harbor because they never informed him beforehand. He thought, excellent. After all, he had already been invading countries without warning or negotiations. So, he had no moral objection to what Japan had done. He believed that if he could fight the entire world and still win, there would be no limits to Germany's expansion. And that's why the war escalated. It all stemmed from Hitler's aggressive ambitions. He never truly understood the destruction they would unleash. Behind closed doors, quiet conversations become urgent alarms. Scientists, many of them refugees fleeing war-torn Europe, bring alarming reports. Germany is exploring nuclear fission. The message is unmistakable. If Hitler succeeds, no army, no city, and no nation will be safe. In reality, however, the Nazi nuclear program is divided, poorly funded, and slowed by internal struggles. The United States doesn't know that yet. It cannot afford to take the risk. August 13, 1942, under absolute secrecy, the United States begins the most ambitious scientific mission in history, the Manhattan Project. The world's brightest minds come together. Oppenheimer, Fermi, Teller, Bohr, and Lawrence unite with one objective: unlock the power of the atom before the enemy can. The Manhattan Project served several purposes. Its main goal, of course, was to build a nuclear bomb that could be used during the war. But another important objective was to determine how advanced other nations were in nuclear research, especially Nazi Germany. I think there was also a strong desire for America to become the world's technological leader. The country wanted to prove its scientific dominance because, at that time, Germany was viewed as the greatest threat. It wasn't Russia, Britain, or anyone else. It became a race against time to see who could unlock this power first and gain the advantage. And, of course, the Manhattan Project also had to build everything needed to create a nuclear bomb. That meant designing massive factories, securing uranium supplies, and developing a way to produce plutonium. Here it is, General Groves. Plutonium. Well, that's the first I've ever seen. But, if you don't mind, next time keep something underneath it, because there's over $50 million sitting inside that tube. The operation is led by General Leslie Groves, a man just as relentless with bureaucracy as he is with deadlines. It is Groves who chooses the remote desert of Los Alamos, New Mexico, as the birthplace of the bomb. Enormous resources are committed to the project. Secret laboratories rise in the deserts of New Mexico, reactors are hidden in the forests of Tennessee, and massive facilities are built across Washington state. An entire city, Oak Ridge, is created from the ground up, filled with thousands of workers, scientists, and soldiers, all bound by strict secrecy. Many have no idea what they are building. But those in charge understand. This is no ordinary weapon. It is something entirely new. Something terrifying. July 16, 1945, 5:29 a.m. The Trinity test. Scientists and military officials stand in tense silence, their eyes locked on the steel tower. The countdown begins. Then, a blinding flash. Light brighter than the sun bursts across the desert, leaving everyone watching temporarily blinded. The steel tower disappears, completely vaporized in an instant. Moments later, the shockwave arrives. A massive wall of fire races across the valley. This was the very first time that this device, as the first nuclear bomb was called, had ever been tested. So all the scientists, including Oppenheimer, watched from a safe distance for obvious reasons. They were genuinely worried that the whole thing might simply fail. No one truly knew what was going to happen, and there was real fear. It wasn't overwhelming because Oppenheimer was a brilliant scientist, but the concern was still there. Once this energy was released, it could become far more catastrophic than anyone had imagined. They knew they were dealing with something they didn't fully understand. The observers stand frozen, watching the towering cloud climb higher into the sky, struggling to grasp the magnitude of what they have just witnessed. Then, Oppenheimer, profoundly affected by the moment, recalls the famous line from the ancient Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Now, I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. I suppose, in one way or another, we all felt that. After VE Day was declared in Europe, a major problem still remained. America and the rest of the Allied powers were still at war with Japan. Japan showed no signs of surrender because, unlike Germany, it refused to accept defeat. After Hitler's death, Germany understood the war was lost and had no choice but to seek the best peace terms possible. Japan was different. Surrender had no place in its national identity. The belief was to fight until the very last man. America was preparing for a massive invasion of Japan by sea, an operation that could have cost millions of lives. The destruction would have been immense and the suffering unimaginable. It also meant the war could continue for months, perhaps even years. So even though Europe had found peace, the situation in Japan was becoming even more dangerous. When President Truman learned that the atomic bomb was ready, he believed its devastating power might end the war almost immediately if Japan chose to surrender. To him, the decision seemed justified. The real question was whether such overwhelming destruction would be enough to convince Japan to abandon one of the strongest beliefs in its national identity and finally surrender. Truman ultimately gives the order to use the atomic bomb because, in his mind, it's a calculation of lives. He knows that invading Japan could cost hundreds of thousands of American lives and millions of Japanese lives. He believes that dropping the bomb could prevent all of that. Yes, tens of thousands would die, but far fewer than in a full-scale invasion. He also wants to send a message to the world that America is now a power no one can challenge. After all, at that moment, the United States is the only nation on Earth with the atomic bomb. The first target is selected: Hiroshima, a major military and industrial city. The decision is made. July 26, 1945. The Potsdam Declaration is issued by the United States, Britain, and China, demanding Japan's unconditional surrender. Japan responds with defiance. Its government rejects the declaration and refuses to accept the terms. The stage is set. Despite increasing pressure, Japan refuses to give in. The world watches and waits. Tinian Island, 1,800 miles south of Japan. The US Indianapolis arrives, carrying the most destructive weapon ever created. The bomb's uranium core is transported under extreme secrecy, its existence known only to a select few. Military police guard the valuable cargo as it is carefully unloaded. No one beyond the project knows what is about to happen. August 1st, 1945, on the scorching airfield, scientists and engineers from Project Alberta work under strict security. This elite team, led by Captain William S. Parsons, is responsible for the bomb's final assembly. Every bolt, wire, and explosive charge is inspected again and again. The bomb has to work flawlessly. There can be no second attempt. August 2nd, 1945, military leaders gather for one final strategic meeting. General Curtis LeMay and senior members of Project Alberta review the latest reconnaissance reports. Weather conditions, wind speeds, and cloud cover are carefully examined. The target must be clearly visible, with nothing blocking the strike. The objective is complete destruction. August 4th, 1945, General Curtis LeMay personally approves the final mission orders for Operation Centerboard 1, the codename for the atomic attack on Hiroshima. His signature confirms a plan that has been unfolding for months. There is no turning back. Deep inside the command center on Tinian Island, the final mission details are reviewed. The attack will be carried out by a single B-29, accompanied by observation aircraft to record the bomb's effects. Hiroshima remains the primary target. Nagasaki and Kokura are designated as backup targets. The launch time is confirmed. Later that same day, the final components arrive. Although nearly everything is ready, one critical piece is still missing. Under the cover of darkness, a modified C-54 transport plane lands on Tinian's runway. Its cargo is small, but unimaginably powerful. It carries the final bomb components, including the uranium-235 core needed to make Little Boy a fully operational nuclear weapon. This marks the final step before assembly is complete. With the mission fully armed and officially approved, the countdown begins. August 5th, 1945, T-16 hours. Northfield, Tinian Island. Mission Commander Colonel Paul Tibbets delivers the final orders. There is no room for doubt. Every man understands they are carrying a weapon unlike anything the world has ever seen. As darkness settles over Tinian, the atmosphere is filled with tension. By sunrise, humanity will enter a new era, one forever shaped by nuclear fire. On the tarmac, the ordnance crew prepares Little Boy for loading. The bomb, 10 feet long and weighing just over 9,000 pounds, rests on a transport cradle. A specially designed loading pit allows the aircraft to be positioned directly above the weapon. The operation moves slowly and carefully. Its firing mechanism will not be activated until the plane is in flight. After several tense minutes, Little Boy is securely locked into position. The bomb bay doors close. The ground crew steps back. The weapon is ready. T minus 12 hours. Mission Briefing Room, North Field. The flight crew gathers for their final briefing. Weather reports confirm clear skies over Hiroshima. Captain William D. Parsons explains the bomb's arming procedure. To reduce the risk of an accident, Little Boy will be armed manually during the flight. The planned release altitude is 31,000 feet. Estimated yield, around 15 kilotons, equal to 15,000 tons of TNT. The explosion will produce temperatures of several thousand degrees at the hypocenter, while the shockwave will be powerful enough to level buildings within a mile of the blast. Radiation will spread even farther. Major Thomas Farabee reviews the bombing approach. The Norden bomb sight, among the most advanced targeting systems of the war, will be used for precise aiming. Built for high-altitude bombing, it uses gyroscopes and mechanical calculators to compensate for speed, altitude, and wind, allowing the bombardier to guide the bomb with remarkable accuracy. The designated target is the Ioi Bridge, a distinctive T-shaped bridge near the center of Hiroshima. The briefing ends. Detailed pre-flight checklists are completed with extreme care. The crew verifies that every bomb arming mechanism, communication system, navigation aid, and weather instrument is working perfectly. Every component must perform without error. In just half a day, history will change forever. T minus 8 hours, 45 minutes. North Field, Tinian Island. The crew is awakened from their quarters. Their sleep has been short. Outside, the air is warm and motionless. Few words are exchanged. The importance of the mission speaks for itself. August 6, 1945, T minus 7 hours, 45 minutes. Final preparations begin. Checklists are reviewed once more. Colonel Paul Tibbets confirms the flight plan. Along with their standard equipment, the crew receives something unusual: cyanide tablets. A final precaution. No one talks about them, but every man understands their purpose. If the aircraft is shot down and they are captured, taking their own lives is considered the only option. On the tarmac, the Enola Gay waits beneath bright floodlights, its polished aluminum shining against the darkness before dawn. T minus 5 hours, 40 minutes. The crew climbs aboard. Each man completes his final checklist. The 4 right-side R-3350 engines roar into action. T minus 5 hours, 30 minutes. The heavily loaded bomber begins its takeoff run. The engines struggle as the aircraft builds speed, using almost the entire runway before finally lifting into the dark sky. The Enola Gay is airborne. The mission has begun. T minus 2 hours, 30 minutes. High above the Pacific Ocean, the Enola Gay cruises at 31,000 feet, leaving the Mariana Islands behind. The vast ocean stretches endlessly below. The skies remain clear. Ahead, 3 weather reconnaissance B-29s, Straight Flush, Jabat III, and Full House, head toward Hiroshima, Kokura, and Nagasaki. Their mission is to confirm clear visibility over each target. The crew waits for their report. Everything depends on it. T minus 90 minutes. Over the Philippine Sea. Inside the bomb bay, Captain William D. Parsons works with careful precision. Little Boy is still secured, but not yet armed. Parsons and Second Lieutenant Morris Jepson squeeze into the cramped compartment, replacing 3 safety plugs with live ones. The bomb is now fully armed. There is no backup plan. For more than 100 years, Hiroshima had been home to some of the finest troops in the Japanese Empire. The city had never experienced a major bombing attack, although it had received repeated warnings. Now its army headquarters, barracks, ordnance depots, quartermaster facilities, factories, mills, and shipyards were about to face the devastating force of the atom. T minus 66 minutes. South of Japan, Japanese radar stations detect aircraft approaching over the sea. An air raid alert is sounded. Sirens echo across the region. Some Hiroshima residents head toward shelters, following habits formed through years of war. At a nearby command center, officers study the radar readings. Only 3 aircraft appear. No large bomber formation, no indication of a major attack. It matches the pattern of another routine reconnaissance flight. T minus 44 minutes. Hiroshima, Japan. The all clear is announced. The sirens stop. Morning life returns to normal. Workers head back to their jobs. Streetcars continue along their routes. The city has no idea the countdown is still moving forward. T minus 30 minutes. Over the Seto Inland Sea, the Enola Gay crosses the Japanese coastline. Hiroshima comes into view. Bombardier Major Thomas Fermi prepares the Norden bomb site, adjusting for altitude, wind, and airspeed. Below, several Japanese fighter aircraft are spotted. They make no attempt to intercept. They are saving fuel for larger bombing missions. No anti-aircraft fire. No resistance. The target is completely exposed. T minus 10 minutes. The final approach. The Enola Gay maintains a steady altitude of 31,000 feet, while the 2 accompanying aircraft remain in formation. The great artiste carries scientific equipment to measure the explosion, while necessary evil is assigned to film the detonation. Crews aboard all 3 aircraft put on dark protective goggles, ready for a flash brighter than the sun. Major Thomas Fermi looks through the Norden bomb site, making his final adjustments. Below, the Aoi Bridge comes clearly into view, its unique T-shaped design making it an ideal aiming point. The city stretches beneath them, completely unaware. Morning traffic moves through the streets. Streetcars follow their schedules. Factories continue operating. Thousands of people go about their daily lives, unaware that a devastating weapon is now aimed directly at the heart of their city. Colonel Paul Tibbets makes one last correction to the aircraft's course. In moments, the bomb bay doors will open. There are no fighters, no anti-aircraft fire, and no warning. The mission proceeds without opposition. History is only 10 minutes away. T minus 1 minute. The bomb bay doors slowly open, exposing little boy to the rushing wind. The 10,000-pound bomb hangs silently, its full weight resting against the release mechanism. Inside the cockpit, hands move confidently across switches and instruments. Final calculations are confirmed. Altitude, 31,000 feet. Speed, 328 miles per hour. Wind drift, minimal. The Aoi Bridge remains perfectly centered in the Norden bomb site. Far below, Hiroshima continues its ordinary morning. Trams move along their tracks. Workers enter factories. Children walk to school. Radios broadcast the morning news. The city is awake, completely unaware that destruction is only moments away. A slight movement from the bombardier. A sharp mechanical click. The release clamps open. Little boy falls into the open sky, beginning its silent and deadly descent toward the unsuspecting city below. T minus 43 seconds. For 43 seconds, the bomb falls in complete silence, accelerating to nearly 600 miles per hour. At approximately 600 meters above the ground, the firing mechanism activates. In less than a millionth of a second, a surge of neutrons begins a self-sustaining chain reaction. 15 kilotons of energy explode into a massive fireball. What made Hiroshima so remarkable was that the atomic bomb exploded directly above the city. Almost instantly, it wiped out the entire center. If you look at photographs taken afterward, Hiroshima appears almost like a desert. A huge section of the city's heart simply disappeared within seconds. Around 140,000 people are killed or die by the end of 1945, more than half of the city is destroyed. One reason Hiroshima suffers such overwhelming devastation is because it sits on a broad, flat plain. In the ruins of Hiroshima, time seems to stop. Among the burned wreckage, pocket watches and wall clocks are discovered. Their hands remain frozen at 8:15 a.m., the exact moment the bomb detonated. Imagine you're in Hiroshima, simply going about your day. Suddenly, a blinding white flash fills the sky. Then, in an instant, everything around you is gone. It was something no one could have imagined because nothing like it had ever existed before. It felt almost biblical. Many people would have believed they were witnessing the end of the world because, for countless victims, it truly was. But it also marked the beginning of a new kind of warfare. No longer was it only about guns, soldiers, and military invasions. Humanity had entered a far more terrifying age. Hiroshima became the first city to experience that reality. An unsettling silence settles over Hiroshima, interrupted only by the distant sounds of collapsing buildings and the cries of the injured. In the moments after the explosion, the city is consumed by chaos. Emergency messages and scattered reports begin to emerge as both American military officials and Japanese authorities struggle to understand the true scale of the disaster. +1 hour. A new nightmare unfolds. Thick, black raindrops begin falling across Hiroshima. The explosion has pulled debris and moisture high into the atmosphere, creating highly radioactive black rain. Desperate survivors drink from puddles, unaware the water carries deadly contamination. The rain continues for nearly 30 minutes, staining everything it touches and exposing countless people to dangerous radiation. Those who survive the blast now face invisible threats that cannot be seen, adding to the horrors of the explosion. The suffering is only beginning. For many survivors, the pain will continue not just for days, but for years to come. +3 hours. News of the bombing reaches the world. President Harry S. Truman addresses the nation, confirming that the United States has used an atomic bomb against Hiroshima. His words spread across radio broadcasts. A short time ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima and destroyed its usefulness to the enemy. That bomb has more power than 20,000 tons of TNT. The Japanese began the war from the air at Pearl Harbor. They have been repaid manifold. And the end is not yet. With this bomb, we have now added a new and revolutionary increase in destruction to supplement the growing power of our armed forces. Both science and industry work together under the direction of the United States Army, which achieved a unique success in an amazingly short time. It is doubtful if such another combination could be got together in the world. What has been done is the greatest achievement of organized science in history. 3 days after Hiroshima, a second atomic bomb is dropped. Nagasaki was never meant to be the primary target. But fate takes a different course. Thick clouds over Kokura spare one city and seal the fate of another. At 503 meters above the ground, Fat Man explodes with even greater force than the first bomb, ripping through the valley below. The surrounding mountains shield part of the city, yet tens of thousands still lose their lives. Now Japan has no remaining options. It is no longer fighting to win the war, it is fighting simply to survive. The war is ending. The world has changed forever. August 15, 1945, Tokyo, Japan, radio static fades into a trembling voice. For the first time, Emperor Hirohito speaks directly to the Japanese people, announcing Japan's surrender. He speaks of unbearable suffering, widespread destruction, and a new, terrible weapon that has brought the nation to its knees. What was especially remarkable about the American public's reaction to the atomic bomb was how effectively Truman presented it. He convinced many people that without using the bomb, the war would have lasted much longer and claimed far more lives. As a result, public support was almost unanimous. That changed over time as more people learned about the enormous civilian death toll in Hiroshima and beyond. But in 1945, around the time of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, support was overwhelmingly widespread. The reaction across the United States was largely one of celebration. It became an enormous source of national pride. More importantly, it brought tremendous relief because those two atomic bombs led to Japan's surrender only a few days later. The war had finally ended, and for many people, that was reason enough to celebrate. October 6, 1945, Hiroshima, Japan. The first American occupation forces arrived near the city. 3 days earlier, on October 3, 1945, scientists from the Manhattan Engineer District entered Hiroshima to conduct radiation surveys. They carefully measured radiation levels, examined structural damage, and documented the bomb's impact on the city's buildings and people. Their research provided vital information that shaped future understanding of nuclear fallout and its long-term effects. The destruction you see here was caused by the bomb exploding directly above ground zero. Only the strongest buildings remained standing, and even they were completely gutted. Looking north from ground zero, this is all that remained. Looking east, the camera captures total destruction across the surrounding area. To the south, only ruins are visible. Looking west from ground zero, the same complete devastation can be seen. The same proof that ordinary structures could not withstand atomic power. Early reports claim Hiroshima will remain uninhabitable for 75 years because of radiation contamination. Scientists and military officials struggle to predict the bomb's long-term effects, but those forecasts prove wrong. Within months, survivors begin returning and rebuilding among the ruins. Despite continued radiation exposure, the city once believed lost slowly rises again. Signs of life appear far sooner than anyone expected. Among the shattered buildings, broken steel, and scattered ash, oleander flowers begin to bloom. Their unexpected return challenges early fears that nothing would grow in Hiroshima for decades. The oleander is later chosen as the city's official flower, becoming a quiet symbol of hope and survival. Amid the destruction, one building remains standing in haunting silence: the Hiroshima Prefectural Industrial Promotion Hall. Its reinforced concrete frame survives the blast, while the city around it is reduced to rubble. Later renamed the Atomic Bomb Dome, it becomes a powerful reminder of what was lost and of what humanity must never allow to happen again. Today, Hiroshima stands once more, a rebuilt city that is never forgotten, a memorial to the past and a lasting warning for the future.